Welcome to Over the Falls podcast, episode number 33. This week, we sat down with retired captain Colin Jones MBE, who served in the British Army for over 30 years. We discussed the numerous tours he's been on, including the Falklands, Iraq and Northern Ireland, his journey to how he worked up to captain, family balance, and the amazing amount of charity work he has done. Here we go. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I want to go straight into your military career if we can, and go to the beginning. So what drew you to the military and why did you want to join?
I think, to be very honest with you, I'm growing up in the 70s, Action Man came in, and I don't know, it was just a passion of mine. I was always going to go into the forces. I had a good upbringing. I went to Llanfarian School, then I went to Penwethig. But, you can even ask my classmates from about 12, I was then determined that I was going to join the British Army. And that was it, the first opportunity I got at the age of 15, I was off. I signed, and by 16, I joined Junior Soldiers in Crickhowell.
Was there any family involved in this? Was your parents, grandparents, anything like that?
Nothing at all.
So it's completely out of the blue in your family.
Yeah, very much.
Do you remember like an advert on the telly or anything that drew into you even more?
I just, growing up, I suppose, I was very outdoorsy. I was very, I played a lot of football. Even growing up, I was very fortunate, really. I was 14, I was with Aber AC, Ronnie Cullum and all the boys of, your Nipper Suttons, your Graham Thomases, your Gareth Dowses. So I think I was quite glad then, because they brought me out of the shell a little bit. Growing up and living in Blind Plwyf, it's quite a sheltered life. And all of a sudden, again then, I was training with these guys, I was playing football, but, I was just determined. I used to work on the bread round, Ideal bread with Arthur Slack, and I always remember early mornings with Arthur, and, even Arthur used to say, oh, there's Colin, camouflage jacket on, and that was it, and that was me, I was destined to join the British Army.
Was it the first time away from home as well for you? Because that's quite young, isn't it?
Yeah.
So 15, you said?
I joined at 15, and I actually entered Junior Soldiers the 7th of September 1980, so I was 16 then, and that was it. It was a year then in Crickhowell in Junior Soldiers, but at 15 I'd signed the papers, and I was away.
Amazing.
Wow. Just so I can piece this together. So you were born in Aberystwyth?
Born in Cardiff.
Then up to Blind Plwyf?
Up to Blind Plwyf, yes.
And then down to Crickhowell when you...
Crickhowell at 16. I'd been to France, Saint-Brieuc with the football, like you do, and we'd done that trip. But apart from that, I'd never set foot, I don't think, outside of Wales really for that. You know what I mean? So that was my only big venture. You used to go on your school trips, went to Ballylake and places like this.
Pendine and things like that.
Llangranog and all
Llanflin.
these. And that's it. You know what I mean? So that was it.
How did your parents feel about you joining the army so young? 'Cause it is pretty young.
Yeah, I think they knew that it was in me and that's what I wanted to do. Again, I think when you hound them so much, they just give in, don't they? And that's it. And they I think, and talking to them later on in life, and they turned around and said it was the best decision that they'd made, because I was settled. I'd come back after, I think it was 6 weeks, where you do the basic 6 weeks, and then you have the opportunity of having a week off, and you come back and they said I'd changed then. But, I was a very young, thin, small 16-year-old that really just blossomed in the army. I went to Junior Soldiers and I got top of my platoon. And it was just for me. I always remember academically struggling in Penwethig. Right. I then went to Junior Soldiers and I was top of the class. It was amazing. Wow. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's a little bit more of freedom, or a different pressure.
Different pressure and a
that
paycheck.
you thrive on.
Yeah, and a paycheck. Yeah. And some discipline and...
Yeah. And
structure.
And I enjoyed that.
Yeah. So you say that you changed in the first 6 weeks. I mean, what was the training like? I mean, was it what you expected? Was it harder, easier?
I think, anybody that says, it was easy, it wasn't. It was hard, because you're getting up at, let's be honest with you, up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I've seen the other side of that, because obviously I've been the instructor on the other side. But I think when you look at it then, it's routine, isn't it? And it's, let's be honest with you, after 32 years I'm institutionalised anyway. But it's routine. So you're getting up at 5, 5, you know, you're getting ready, you're having your breakfast, you're doing your room jobs, you're then basically getting yourself ready to go out on parade, you're then getting inspected, shaving. You know, I'd never shaved, and they said, "You haven't shaved this morning." I haven't shaved before in my life. You know, and that's how it was. And I think when you look at it, again, you know, I mean, getting your bull in your boots. We had even PT. You know, we had to have creases in our shorts, red PT or white PT vest, socks rolled down 3 times, and our dappers. Then we used to call them the black dappers. You know, we had to, you know, highly polish them. You know, that was it. So they strip you down and then they build you back up. So yeah, I'd been stripped down after 6 weeks, and it was a case then, to be honest with you, that I quite enjoyed it. You know, I came home and I wanted to go back.
Wow.
Yeah. When was did you go on a tour early, so to speak? So how old were you?
First tour was was 18.
18.
So I joined the battalion in a place called Lemgo in Germany. And what you've got to remember, these guys all look like they're 40, and they're all about 7'6". When you're looking at them, they just come back from the 1981 Bobby Sands tour.
Okay.
So you're branded with the word Sprog. You know, I mean, so you're coming into that platoon, and you're the youngest guy there. You're 17. You know, I mean, and I was just so relieved when a new then intake came in of recruits into the battalion. I wasn't the Sprog no more, because we used to have then what was called NAFI breaks at 10:30, and it was Sprog, get to the NAFI queue, and you'd have a big list then from your platoon, and you'd have to go and get the NAFI break. And you say, I don't think I've got enough money to pay for it. You know, I mean, and that's how it was.
Like the T-boy sort of thing.
So you didn't moan, you didn't groan, you just got on with it. And, you know, you're in a foreign land. You're in a place called Lemgo, which was West Germany then. Remember, we still had East Germany.
Still had the wall?
Yeah. And I was in Berlin when the wall came down.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
interesting.
But you know, you're out there and you're just basically, you know, as I say, waiting for somebody to come in. But again, you're bedding in, as we used to say. You're finding your feet. You're understanding the battalion way of life. You know when to say something and when not to say something. And as a Sprog, you hardly say anything at all. But it's just then, I suppose, gaining the confidence of your platoon that you can do the job. And I was very fit, so that was good. And some of the older guys, they were struggling. So, you know, I mean, it was a case then that you just did your job, got on with it. Yeah. And I hadn't discovered alcohol, so that was another tick of the box, really. So
I was going to ask about that. Have you ever looked back and reflected and thought, I didn't have the normal teenage years of going out and
yeah, you know, I missed
getting
a lot.
wrecked and all that sort of stuff.
You know what I mean? I think the worst thing is when there's something on in Aberystwyth. You know, as I said, I'm very close to my friends and family in Aberystwyth. Yeah. But you know, there's many a times, and a great story was my cousin was getting married, Andrew Jones, known as Andy Roo, in Aberystwyth, and I was in Belfast then, and there was a lot of writing on in Belfast that period of time, and I'd spoken to my OC, and I was a corporal then, and my OC had turned around and said, look, I'll get you away on Thursday, I need you back on Monday, but you will be going to the wedding. Thursday night, really hardcore, you know, writing again, you know, came off on the Friday morning. He said, look, I'll get you to the airport. It might not be until Friday, late Friday night. And I said, yeah, fine. And I remember him coming to me on the Friday night, and he said, look, you're not going. And I said, okay, you take it on the chin, and that's it. You know, got a job to do. You're commanding men. So you go, okay, not a problem, sir, crack on. I thought, right, I better phone Andrew. So I phoned him, and it was in the Lletty Gwyn then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was Lletty Gwyn, yeah. It was in the Lletty Gwyn in Llanbaden, and, you know, big lad, Andy, and he came to the phone and started crying, you know what I mean? But again, what can you do? You've got a job to do, and that's life. So, yeah, you do miss out on a lot, and I think, you know, when you're possibly 18, you know, 20, 21, you know, I mean, my 18th birthday away, 21, 21st birthday away, that's life. You
get used to it.
Yeah.
Because you sent over some details of what you've done in the past and the tours that you've done, and I noticed that within sort of 2 years of you being in the military, you were actually heading out to the Falklands.
Yeah.
What was that feeling like, knowing that you was only 2 years in, and then knowing what had gone on out there? Were you scared? Were you ready? How did you feel?
I think, again, you're trying to prove yourself. And that's the big thing. I volunteered for the Falklands.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because we'd come back from Lemgo in Germany in, I think it was the July, August of 82. and we were taking over then the role of Infantry Demonstration Battalion in Warminster. And they wanted then volunteers to go out to the Falklands. So 23 of the Royal Welsh were going out because the Royal Hampshires didn't have the manpower. And I just looked at it as an opportunity. Remember, these guys are all coming back now and they've got their Northern Ireland medal. And I just wanted to basically be part of the gang, really, to say, look, I've done an operational tour. So I did volunteer. And it was the unknown because you didn't know. We went out slightly after. And we went to a place called North Arms Settlement, which is just off Goose Green. And, you know, it was basic conditions. We were sleeping in a slaughterhouse. They used to throw the carcasses of the sheep into the river, and the smell was foul. And, you know, I don't eat lamb to this day, and every fresh meal on the menu was lamb, you know, whether it was a lamb curry or lamb dinner, and everybody turned. But you get on with it, you do your job. And then 3 months into the tour, I went to a place called South Georgia, which is 800 miles then further south, getting into the Antarctic. And it is into the Antarctic. I've done 2 tours of South Georgia, and, you know, on a bad day, it's minus 35 degrees. So, yeah, it's a cold place. Yeah.
So this is quite poignant question at this point, I think. So joined at 15, 18, off. How are we ready? Because that seems to me like quite a short time for a young person.
Yeah, I've experienced it over my army career. You know, I mean, what I've had to deal with, you know, and you've seen a lot of young soldiers join in, especially with Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And what you see is that young soldier that comes in, and sadly to say, they've been through training and they've done well and they've come in, but the reality kicks home when they deploy. And I've always said, you see the youth draining out of them, especially in the eyes, you know, and especially in a hard tour, the child goes because they grew up really fast and really quick, and they totally understand that, you know, it's not a game on PlayStation no more. It's the real McCoy. So you do. And again, I think if I look back at my career and I look at the Falklands was really good for me, because it really matured me. And again, what it did for me, to be honest, it made me adapt, and I had to rely on my skills then to look after myself, in the sense that whether it was, you know, my kit, my equipment, even my hygiene, you know, had to be spot on, because you had the older generation there that were watching on and you had to prove yourself. So I think came back from the Falklands tour as a real good professional soldier.
Wow.
Were you like keeping the peace out in the Falklands? Because you said you got there kind of like just after, after the war?
Yeah. Well, there was some interaction then with the Argentinians. They had a flyover, which again, you know, we all had to then go into our defensive positions, and again, you know, I mean, it's your first opportunity. You think, right, I've got to prove myself here now, really in contact. So that goes through your mind. We did a lot of patrolling in South Georgia, because again, what the threat was it was an easy island to take. South Georgia, 800 miles from the Falklands.
Okay.
So when we were out there, the platoon that was out there then with us, a lot of patrolling, because again, we were expecting them to put special forces onto the island, which they did. And we found a special forces radio something like a month into our tour there. So again, they were probing, they were trying to see, you know, what the weaknesses were on that island. So it was, you know, South Georgia was hard. Very, you know, very difficult terrain. Again, you've got an island there which is snowed over most of the year. And it was a case then that, you know, we sometimes have one of the naval ships come in. I did go on a submarine once where they'd take us to the other side of the island and we'd have to patrol back. So, yeah, there's a lot. The other task that we had on the first time that we were out there was a helicopter had crash landed in the Falklands. I don't know if you heard about that with the SAS.
Yes.
And that we had to go and retrieve some of the equipment off that. And there wasn't much left, to be honest.
Ooh, that was tragic, that was, because there was a few of them on there, wasn't there?
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah. What's the, because you've done quite a few tours. I've read that you did the Falklands twice. Is that right?
Yeah.
Numerous tours of Northern Ireland.
8 tours of Northern Ireland.
Gulf.
Yeah.
Iraq.
Yeah.
What is the feeling like of being in like a hostile environment?
I think, you know, I mean, apart from the first Falklands tour, after that I was a commander. So I was promoted very young then to Lance Corporal. I was one of the youngest sergeants, I suppose, in the battalion. I was a platoon sergeant at, I think it was 24, 25. But again, obviously, you've got to do a lot of courses to get to them positions. But again, the responsibility then once you're in command, totally different from when you're a fusilier. So you have a lot more responsibility. Remember, I always used to say, or think back, the biggest thing I used to say was, first my men, then my weapon, then myself. So if you came off patrol in Northern Ireland as a multiple commander, as a platoon sergeant, you're up 2 hours before the rest of the guys because you're getting your patrol orders ready. You've got your in briefs. You've got then basically all your tasks. You quickly put your task sheets in. Then you're briefing your lads. Then you're out on patrol. When you come back off patrol, then again you're getting your guys fed and watered. You're then filling out then your patrol reports, and then you're picking up your task sheets for the next day. So an operational tour. There's not a Monday and there's not a Saturday or Sunday. Every day rolls into one. You crack on with the tasks that you're given, remembering potentially there's a tour where you or a patrol, where you might be out for 4 days. So planning that 4 days is it's quite long-winded in the sense that where you're going to be bedding down at night, threats and everything like that. So there's a lot goes into it. So really, and what I'd say is, once you get into the command seat, really that's it. You've got a job to do, and you don't really have time to reflect. You just get on with it, and that's the biggest thing.
Wow.
Yeah. What was your first tour to Northern Ireland like? Because to say it's a complicated situation over there is like probably an understatement, isn't it? So do you remember your first tour to Northern Ireland?
I've seen Northern Ireland. How can you say, from the early 80s? I went 85, I think was my first tour, all the way to my last tour of 2006. I've evolved, and what you've got to understand with Northern Ireland as well, there's only a minority of really bad people out there. Majority are lovely, nice people. So it's having that balance, and it's a balance of professional respect, really. So when you're stopping the car and you're talking to people, you've got to be courteous and polite, and because you will gain trust. And the other thing is, and I think the big thing again with Northern Ireland is that you gain that sixth sense. You do. I don't know what it is. You just gain that sixth sense. You'll go onto a street in Belfast and you'll really feel that there's something wrong, whether it's all the kids have been taken off the street, whether there's no one there, there's people in the windows looking down at you, and you get that feel in Northern Ireland. So you can't relax, and that's the worst thing on any operational tour, especially Northern Ireland. You can't relax. You've got to be 100% all the time. You could be top of your game, because again, you as a multiple commander, I've got another 11 guys behind me, haven't I? So you have to. But I think I was a career soldier. Even, with the first Gulf War, I had a job to do. I did it. I was always pushing, and started to say, for the next rank.
Right,
so
okay.
I wanted to be the colour sergeant. Then I wanted to be, the sergeant major. Then I wanted to be the RQ, the RSM. So I was pushing always to do the best job I can. Yeah. So then, the commanding officer would say, Sergeant Jones, you are my number one sergeant in the battalion. Great.
Brilliant.
Wow. And that's
what you wanted.
Yeah.
That was your drive.
Yeah.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah. What sort of hairy moments do you remember in Northern Ireland? Because I guess I know very little about the conflict in Northern Ireland, but you do see things on the news like nail bombs, explosions, pipe bombs, etc.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what I mean? I was blown up twice in a week. And just unfortunate, I suppose, in the sense that, we were in at the time in a place called Fermanagh, and basically I was in a RUC station, Royal Ulster Constabulary station then, which I had my multiple, so I had my 12 guys with me, basically guarding the police and then basically patrolling out to there. And we were, I always remember it, on a Thursday afternoon, I was just ready to get picked up, and I was in civilians. I was getting ready to picked up. And I was in civilians, and we got mortared. Mark 16, they called the bunker busters, came in. So anyway, I had to get changed. I always remember it was pouring down with rain, and I didn't put socks on. So I had my boots on, no socks. I had my smock on, no T-shirt. I was freezing. But you're out there on a cordon patrol, and I had to take control of the incident and everything. You're reporting back. You're getting everybody that you need onto the ground to try and basically conserve then all the forensics, and also, potentially, hopefully, capture the terrorist. And then we were due to go out on a 4-day patrol after that. And we went out on the ground for something like about 8 hours, came in, had a hot drink. And I remember the OC, officer commanding then of, I was Delta Company then, phoned me up and said, Sergeant Jones, you're still going out on that patrol. All we wanted was not to go out on that patrol after that. But, and you know, the morale of the lads. And it was a difficult patrol. We were dug in for 4 days in an OP on the border, you know what I mean? So we just got soaking wet, freezing, and we were going to be dug in for 4 days on the border. So, and our job then, our task then, was basically to observe the crossing points, because they were stealing heavy plant and taking it across to the south.
Yeah. Okay.
So where and how do the orders get to you? So you're out there.
I would have
radio.
Yeah, radio. You know what I mean? So we'd have radios then. You know what I mean? And you know, with the radios, you're on quite a secure net, and they are very good radios. Northern Ireland, the communications out there. You know, you not really have a fault, because you know there wasn't mobile phones or anything.
No, of course.
You know what I mean? So yeah, they're very good comms there. But you'd have a patrol task, weekly patrol task. And it's up to you then to plan your patrols, and it would indicate to you what you would do, what you wanted to do.
So that's massive responsibility, I think.
Yeah, it's huge. You know, I mean, and again,
lives literally in your hands.
Yeah, it is. You know, you're picking routes and things like that, and what you don't want to do in Northern Ireland is set a routine. Because if you set a routine and go down the same road at the same time, that's it. You know, what I mean, so when the guys used to say, "Why are we going through this river?" You know, I mean, there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it.
I'm really intrigued about like how people lead well and manage people well and deal with stress, and someone in your position who's managed people and worked his way right up to captain.
Yeah.
Like, how do you stay calm in like situations that you've been in? How, is it something it's naturally come to you, or is it the training? Or
no, I think, you know, you do a lot of courses. You know, I mean, for me to get where I was, you know, I mean, even though with the operational trainings, you know, a lot of the wives used to say to my wife, to do, your husband doesn't like you. Why? Because he's never here. Because I was then on a course, you know, I mean, for me, you know, to get to corporal, I had to do then what's known as the junior tactical course in Brecon, which was a 12-week course, hard course in Brecon. With that, then I'd also get which is known as skill at arms. So I'd become a rifle or weapons instructor. So on that side, you're then from pistol to rifle to 51mm mortar, low anti-tank, general purpose machine gun. You're instructing all them weapons, and you've got your range qualification. So you're getting that in, so you know then you've got that qualification. Then if you want to become a sergeant, you've got to then do your senior tactical course, which is a hard course in Brecon, where you get your 4 and 5, which is the top range qualification. Plan and conduct moving ranges. You know, I've planned and conducted 90 guys moving at the same time with live firing with all platoon weapons in Canada, which, you know, I mean, is wow. But you do it because that's the task that's been given to you, and you try and do it to the best of your ability. But there's a lot, you know, I mean, for you to get to where you want to get. You know, you're on courses a lot.
Wow. I think wanting to progress sometimes is like, sometimes it's a natural thing, isn't it? But I think what happens to most people, or I imagine, is you go up a notch, you think, right, okay, do some more training, go up. And I think sometimes hit maybe a level, and they might think, you know what, I'm probably quite good around here, and I might not want to go any higher. Did you just want to get as high as you could go? Or did you ever get to that point?
I think so. You know what I mean? I think as a senior non-commissioned officer, you know, I mean, which is basically from sergeant, colour sergeant to one officer, first and second and then first class. Yeah, I was driven, and then I always say it, I went to the dark side then and became an officer. Quite a lonely place, because all of a sudden you're leaving a mess, and what we call a mess, you know, the one officer and sergeant's mess, where you're possibly one of the top guys in there, and you've got all your mates with you that you've gone through the army career with. And then you've gone across the road, then the officer's mess, where you can't even go into the sergeant's mess unless you're invited back for a pint. So you can wave to them. And I always remember, you know, I mean, when I finished as regimental sergeant major and went across then as an officer, you know, I mean, I went out there and, you know, the old regimental sergeant major salute, you know, I mean, smart as a carrot and all that. And I remember this other Ellie saying to me, "You'll get fed up of that." And I said, "Why?" He said, Because throughout your army career, you've just saluted a few officers a day. Now everybody's going to be saluting you, and it's true. Everybody walks past you, salutes you, and you're going, oh, oh. So yeah, it is. It's an eye opener. And I think my only saving grace was rugby then, because obviously I was the head coach for the Royal Welsh Fusiliers. So even at night, rather than putting every night at 7 o'clock in the officers' mess, you have to wear a suit and tie and sit down, and it's a 2-hour meal. I'm on the rugby pitch tonight, and I'd go then when I came back, plated meal into my room, and I think that was a bit of a saviour.
So just to touch on the rugby, did that come from Crick Howell?
No.
Oh, wow.
Not at all.
Because there's a bit of a base there, isn't there? For
rugby? There is. I joined a boxing and rugby battalion. I said to the battalion in Lemgo, I boxed in Crick Howell for the first time because of my weight. I was the smallest guy there, right? Your flyweight, we haven't got a flyweight, and that was it. So you throw it in, no training, and that's it. And you do, it's like windmills, aren't you? And then it's a case then that in Lemgo, they go, I joined the battalion, and they looked at me and went, right, you're in the boxing team, and you've been boxing in Crick Howell, haven't you? And I went, well, I didn't want to, but yeah, that's it. So, you then, you get involved in the boxing squad and everything, and you pick a few things up. But was I a great boxer? No. I survived. I was battalion champion, which is great, and I still think of that as a bit of a fluke, but I won it, and that's life. It doesn't matter, I'll take it. But then I was heavily involved in the football team because I was playing football, but then into company rugby. And next thing I'm playing for the seconds, then I'm running the seconds, then I'm playing a few games for the firsts. I was playing 10 for the battalion, and our 10 was an army player, and he was brilliant. And, the only time I would get on that pitch for the first team was when he was away on a course or ill. Right. So I understood that, and that's it. But I think my forte was coaching. I went into coaching, and then, I don't know. I've always said, I think that was with Cardiff Blues, Wales under 17s, and coached with the British Army setup and everything like that. But I think with Cardiff Blues and the WRU, what they liked with me was my organisation and layout.
Of course.
That's what they liked. It wasn't my coaching
hand
ability.
In hand with your progression.
Yeah, they just liked the way I did everything. And
military background, I guess, isn't it?
That's what they liked. And I got in really well, and I was really looked after. And what you then start to do is pick things up from them, because they are good coaches, and that's it. So, I was very fortunate when the Army kept 3 times, and again, we won 2 years on the bounce as head coach, but by that time I'd taken a lot of information away from these good coaches.
Of course. Wow. That's so cool.
That's really interesting. I was going to go back to your military career again, if that's okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, was there any particularly tough situations that you sort of had to deal with? And I want to sort of get into your mind a little bit here, as in, like, how did you cope with it during that particular situation, and then afterwards? Would there have been like a debrief, or was it just a case of it is what it is, head down, ass up, just carry on?
I'll take you to an incident, and I'll take you to the first Gulf War. And I went and served with the Royal Regiment of Fusiliers, 3rd Battalion. I'm Royal Welsh Fusiliers. And I went away then from Berlin in 1990 as a gunnery sergeant instructor then to a place called Verl. And during that then, obviously, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. And then basically the commitment then was that we were going to send British troops out. I was identified, I should imagine, then that I had senior Brecken, I had gunnery qualifications, so I had warrior, rod and cannon and chain gun, so I was an instructor on that, and also the tactics on warrior, and also I'd just come back from Berlin, so I was doing Fibia and Dibia, which is fighting and defending in a built-up area. So I had all the qualifications that they needed, so off I went then, part of the training team, and I was seconded then to A Company 3RNF as their advisor. And on the Thursday, we were just about to do final exercise. They were going as a company with the Royal Scots Battle Group. And it was announced in Parliament that a further infantry battalion would be deploying, and it was going to be the 3rd Battalion, the Royal Regiment of Fusiliers. So had to scrub then the final exercise the day. They were headed back to a place called Deinenhofen in Germany, and I was lucky. I had a long weekend back in Verl. And on the Monday, never even thought about it, on the Monday I got summons by the adjutant, and the adjutant was Royal Scots, and he said, "You're posted." And I said, "Where to?" And he said, "You're posted to A Company." And I went, "In Berlin?" He said, "No, not Berlin." And I went, "Well, my battalion's in Berlin, so if I'm posted back." And I said, "When am I posting?" He said, "Thursday." And I said, "Well, I've got my wife and son in Verl. What about, how am I going to pack my quarter and move to Berlin that short amount of time?" And he went, "Well, you're going anyway on Thursday." And I went, "So where am I going to?" He said, "You're going to your 3rd battalion." And I went, "My 3rd battalion is a TA battalion, reservist now, but TA battalion in Wrexham." I said, "So I'm going to Wrexham?" And he went, "No, you're going to Deinenhofen." And I went, "Who's there?" And he went, 3 RRF. And I went, "Sir, I'm 1 RWF." And he went, "You're posted anyway." So I went with, a platoon of 32 guys that I'd never ever met before. And off I went, reported on the Thursday, had literally something like 2 months with them to get ready, and then we were deploying. But I deployed, and the first attack that we put in, and again, it's warriors, and our company and my platoon I was forward right of the whole push, so there was nothing else but enemy out there. So that was, it's quite daunting, but again, you've got that job to do. But I remember on the first attack, we did what we did and everything like that. And again, I'm the commander, I've got my gunner there, and I've got my driver, and I've got 7 guys in the back that are blind. Then asking what's happening, and we're possibly, putting weighted fire down as we're moving and everything like that. So they, I wouldn't like to have been in there. And they just want them doors to open so they can go out and do their jobs. And what we would do was basically hurtle down, go over then the trench position. We'd get over the trench position and basically open the back doors so they're dropping into their trenches, and that was it. Anyway, a very successful first attack, and A Company 3 RNF for the first 2 attack that morning. It was a Saturday morning, and then from there then we were going onto the high ground, and we were then providing support then for Charlie Company 3 RNF to put their assault in. And I always remember it, I was there in the high ground. I'm giving a running commentary to the guys in the back. What's happening? We're out of engagement now, so we're not in contact, we're not firing, we're just in an overwatch position. And next thing, 2 vehicles exploding. I said, 2 enemy vehicles have been taken out. Right, cheering. We then moved into basically what's known as a linear, so the vehicles line up in a straight line. Because the amount of exploded, unexploded devices out there, a lot of bomblets and everything, which basically, was Allied bomblets. We had 2 guys to clear then down to the platoon commander's trench. And there's a guy in my trench, a corporal in my trench, and his name was Satch, and he was basically following me down. And as we cleared into it, the platoon commander turned around and said, "Satch, by the way, I think your brother's just been killed."
Oh.
And I went, "You what?" And he went, "I said, don't tell him like that. Pull him to one side." I don't know. Anyway, I remember going back then to the vehicle, and I said, "Satch, what do you want?" He said, "I want to go up into the turret." And I think, right, turret there. I've got Radon cannon. I've got all the chain gun, 7.62 chain gun. I've got all basically white phos. Is that a wise move to put him in there? Right, no, he needs a bit of peace and quiet. I'll stay in the back, Satch. I said, "You go up there." And he broke his heart, and that's it. And and he carried on with his job. And what had happened, and it's quite a famous event, an A10 had taken out 2 of the vehicles. We lost 9 guys that day, and it's difficult. However, we just then received QBOs for the next phase.
Right.
So you're dealing with that compassionate, which is massive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a massive compassionate issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? what do I do with Satch? So I said to my gunner, you get in the back. Satch, you go into the gunner seat. I'll stay in the commander's seat, and I'll keep you occupied. By keeping him occupied, and he was brilliant, don't get me wrong, brilliant, but I think that was the right move. Because he didn't want to talk to anybody. He was reflecting.
Yeah.
But I was saying to him, are you doing this? Are you looking at that? Look out at your sights. You know what I mean? I was keeping him
He's
occupied.
focused. Getting through.
And I think it's just, because as you can imagine, there's a lot going through your mind because you're getting ready for the next assault. You've got basically the orders that you just received. You've got to put them into action, but you've also got to look after the welfare of one of you guys who sat next to you. So,
Spinning a lot of plates.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it
Whoa.
is. And you do it, you know what I mean? But, we lost a guy from the platoon as well, which was really sad. And it takes the sail out of you, but you still have that job to do. I think you don't really reflect on it until you're on safe ground.
I bet.
I can only imagine.
Because it's life or death for you still at that point.
Yeah, so that's it. But you look back and I always I always admire Satch for getting on with it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Colin. First of all,
Can't imagine.
I know it's a bit of a deeper question now, but because of the attitude that you have to have, it's like you've got to keep moving, you've got to keep going. Do you think that's potentially why there may be PTSD in a lot of veterans now, that they have that attitude and they don't have that chance to sort of get it out properly, or it catches up with them? I think is my question. Does it catch up with them? Is my question.
Yeah, I think I was later on in my career. I was regimental careers management officer for the battalion, and we turned around then, and we were starting to identify it then. This was 2005, 2006. And we said then that there was going to be problems, because if you look from really Bosnia, then, from Bosnia, then, you had the problems with Afghanistan, then you had the problems with Iraq, and you just didn't have time to catch breaths because, you were coming off one operational tour, you're having what we call a little bit of downtime, and then you were getting ready then to deploy in your next. A deployment to Northern Ireland, you have to have something like a 6-month training lead into it to tick all the boxes. It's not a case of just going out there. You have to do your operational training, OPTAG and everything like that. So everybody that goes out on, say, in the street in Northern Ireland has done OPTAG, because what you've got to remember as well, we're sending guys out there that are possibly 18 with a loaded rifle onto the streets, and they're going to experience a lot of pressure. They're going to experience a lot of hatred in some cases, and they're going to have to deal with it, because if they don't, there's a big thing in Northern Ireland called the yellow card, and, you deal off that. If they don't, then it's going to cause problems. So you've got to be 100%. And on an OPTAG training package, and it used to be done down in Lyddon Hythe, they're absolutely hammered. They will go through every scenario, whether it's been blown up, the rioting, petrol bombed. They'll go through everything. So by the time they get over there, they realise the pace is a lot slower than OPTAG, because it's not that wild.
Yeah.
But if there's an incident, they'll deal with it. Plus you've got the commander there as well, who hopefully knows the ins and outs to make sure that works, that controls that. You go there, you go there, you go there to control that situation. So, there's a lot to Northern Ireland. You've got to get all your drivers qualified on this. You've got to get, even the different comms equipment that you're using out there, what we used to call ECM, that's got to be trained up. Even the baton gun, that you wouldn't carry a baton gun on the battlefield, but you're carrying a baton gun in Northern Ireland, and when to use that baton gun and how to use that baton gun and safety distances, because if you get it wrong, you're in court.
There's so much to it.
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot to take in.
So much to it.
Yeah.
Have you ever been posted somewhere, and I understand you must have such laser focus to go somewhere and think, right, you need to do this job, ABC, you need to do all this. You ever questioned and thought, what are we doing here? I know it's quite a difficult question. Maybe
it is a difficult question. I think after you do, but I think that I was, you look back in 1991, and a name that I'll mention was Schwarzkopf. Yeah, General Schwarzkopf.
Okay.
And after everything had finished, we were on because I went down into Kuwait City then, but we were all formed up before we went into Kuwait City. After the event and everything, and the first thing he said, the whole battle groom's lined up there now, so you got about 800 men there, and I remember Schwarzkopf turning around and saying, "Is there any press?" And everybody's looking around and said, "No, sir." He said, "Guys, we should have gone all the way to Baghdad." He said, "Because mark my word, you'll be back here in 10 years' time." And he was spot on. Spot on. The momentum was there.
Yeah.
And it was a politician's war, you know what I mean? The politicians had said enough's enough, you know what I mean? So we knew, as soldiers, that we had basically them licked. They were, you know, they were surrendering, you know what I mean? I think, what was it? Our division, our brigade took something like 5,000 prisoners. You know what I mean? We destroyed something like about 90 tanks, 120 armoured artillery pieces, and, you know, so it was, you know, we really knocked the stuffing out of them.
They've diminished.
Yeah.
So it just made common sense then to keep on going into basically Baghdad. Remember as well, you had the momentum from the rest of the world. So you had all the other countries, all the allied countries then, saying this is right. He's invaded Kuwait. He started this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, then we went on to the second, which again, you know, I was back up in 2004. So really, yes, just over 10 years, but we were back out there. Potentially, was that right? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess mainly on reflection sometimes, because like I said, you've got such an important job to do, and you've got like a set of orders, I imagine, and you need to complete missions, etc., that you're just looking after your guys and trying to do the job.
You want to bring everybody home.
Yeah,
you know, that's it's got to be the main aim, isn't it, for any regiment when they go away on an operational tour, is bringing all the guys back. And I think when you don't, then you do question it.
Yeah. It must be tough. Like, so one of my questions, you've sort of touched on it with it was whether you've lost a few people on the way in your platoons, etc., or on your ops missions and stuff like that. And I bet I can't even imagine what that's like, because you're not responsible at all, but you're there as a commander, etc. Do you know what I mean? It must be difficult.
I think, when I was asked this question a few years back, I was asked to basically say a few words on a Remembrance Sunday, and I was asked then in the 2-minute silence, what do you think about? Well, I said it's quite easy. I think about all the guys that all my mates have lost. You know what I mean? And that's it. You know what I mean? And I can fill the 2 minutes, and that's a sad thing. But again, you know what I mean, as I say, I've been there 30 odd years. Yeah. So you do, you know what I mean? And I think, you know, I remember like the Ballykinler Northern Ireland tour. You know, I was also the search commander as well, so I had to go and do a search course. And one of the guys in my search team was a guy called Wayne Edwards. Wayne Edwards was a hell of a character. He used to take his false teeth out, drop it in your pint and go, I'll drink that then. And that was him, you know what I mean? And that was Wayne's thing. But Wayne Edwards was the first soldier killed in Bosnia. And I was on my drill instructor's course in Pirbright. And we were based in Tidworth then. And it is quite sad that you're watching the news at 10 and it says a British soldier has been killed in Bosnia from the Cheshire Regiment. You think, it's not one of ours. Sad, and you know what I mean? But then it says Lance Corporal Wayne Edwards, and you think, we got a Wayne Edwards who's attached Royal Welsh Fusiliers. And then and he was shot in there's a bridge now out in Bosnia called the Wayne Edwards Bridge, the 79. It's 79. But again, you know, I was on this drill course, and we'd just done the burial phase. And I remember the Sergeant Major then of D Company again phoned me up and said, I need you to come down, you know, because there's a lot to funerals, military funerals, hell of a lot of military funerals. And he said, I need you to come down and give advice. And I said, well, I'm on a course. Next thing, the regimental sergeant major drill wing phones down, and I'm sent up, slumber tabs in. Sir, he said, right, day off on Monday, want you back Tuesday. So I went then on the Friday, straight back to Tidworth, straight up to Wrexham, where the funeral was, and then I dressed wings, coffin and everything like that. I remember seeing the Sergeant Major and the colour sergeant who was doing the firing party. give me half an hour, I know the guy. But yeah, you do, and you want to do the best for him.
Of course.
Yeah,
without a shadow of a doubt.
Of course you do. But what, out of all the tours, because I had a look at all the tours, and you've been to a lot of places, a lot of different tours. Which one do you think was the most challenging, difficult, hard? Could be anything. The terrain, the people, whatever.
Northern Ireland's are hard. I remember doing a NOP in Northern Ireland. We broke the record actually, and it was when they were putting all the towers up. And we were down in South Armagh, and we broke the record then in January, and we were dug in on the border for 19 days. And I always remember, I was a corporal then, and I was also the company sniper, and I also had the SF, which is sustained fire machine gun, the general purpose machine gun. So I had a big trench right at the top of the hill, brilliant. But I always remember the platoon sergeant then coming up the hill screaming. We had Gore-Tex off. It was pouring down with rain. There's a helicopter there dropping sandbags down, and he was shouting, "Get your Gore-Tex off. The enemy will know where you are." I said, "There's a helicopter there. They already know where we are now."
The so anyway, might have been compromised.
So anyway, that night he went down with hypothermia. Should put his Gore-Tex on, and then it was right. You're taking over. So I took over as platoon sergeant, acting platoon sergeant. I'd just come back off senior Brecon anyway, so I was quite comfortable doing it. So I was there for the 19 days. But I always remember, and I don't know if you've ever seen Band of Brothers.
Yes.
And you've got that platoon commander that always says, "I'm just going to headquarters. I might be a while. I'll be back now." My platoon commander, you could go in then to into Besbrook about every 3 days, have a shower and all that. And I said, "No, I'm staying on the ground with the guys, and that's it. Just in case something happens, I'll stay on the ground." So he used to come to my trench on the top of the hill, because every morning we'd go and do stand to. We'd walk around, make sure everybody's all right. And at night, and as we walk around, he goes, "Are you going in for your shower tomorrow?" And I went, "No, I'll stay with the I'll go in and check if everything's okay." Okay, so that was it. And the boys used to say, "I'm quite glad he's going," but that's another story. But yeah, you do. I think it's a chat in the mess then, it's you're bragging a bit, aren't you? You go back to the sergeant's mess and say, "I stayed there for the whole 19 days.
Yeah.
Well done,
done it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fool. But, December, that was challenging. But if I had to look back at my career, where I was really tasked was obviously the First Gulf War.
Yeah. For what particular reasons? Or
Fast and Furious, from, as I said, marrying up with a bunch of guys you never met before. I've never had a pint with any of them.
Yeah, that's quite difficult.
So you've got to gain their confidence straight away, haven't you? They don't know you from Adam, and all of a sudden you're there basically controlling and commanding them, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you're getting through that. We deployed about 10 days before the rest of the battalion. As an advance party, get all the vehicles off the ships, get everything sorted and everything like that. The guys came in on New Year's Eve, and we were in the desert by New Year's morning, quick. I think I had a Christmas of whatever day I did Christmas, a little bit early, about 3 days early before Christmas. What you tend to do when you're going away is say to the wife, "Right, you go to bed now, and that's it," and then you slip away. So, and that's it. And we went off then to Saudi Arabia. Went straight into the desert in Saudi Arabia. We were in the desert then for coming up to about 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Really, a lot of build-up training. It was long. It was intense. Very hot in the day, freezing cold at night.
Yeah.
Freezing cold at night.
Such a weird climate, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's dirty, it's stinking, there's sand everywhere. Hygiene is a problem. I think I had 3 showers in something like about 7 months.
Wow.
So, that's it. You're constantly cleaning your weapons because the sand's getting in everything. And again, I remember, we're moving vehicles then right up to the border, ready for the push. So they said, "Right, 4 of you go on these low loaders with these Saudi Arabian drivers. I always remembered, you can imagine the British lorry driver with his naked women, yeah, and basically they just had their women's with all you could see was the shemags around their eyes and all this in the cans. So anyway, we got up there, offloaded the vehicles, and I wasn't a driver. And then I remember the OC saying to me, well, you're going to have to lead a company's vehicles through the desert. And I went, okay. So, and I'm saying, well, I'm driving. I've got no commander. I've got no gunner. And I've got a map, and the desert's not the easiest place to navigate.
No roads.
No roads. And that's it. And I had something like 50 Ks to go. It wasn't, So, and you're following basically a pipe, an oil pipeline. And that's it. Oh, gosh. And then the next thing, I've got B company saying we're following you, C company's following me, and I'm leading the whole battle group's vehicles. Do you know what's going through your head is, I'm going to be in the sun tomorrow, yeah? Iraqis captures all this, you know what I mean?
Wrecked it.
That's going through, my career's over. And then you bump into some Americans and they say, keep going. And then all of a sudden you see the RRF, 3rd Battalion Royal Welsh flag, and you think, yeah, I've got you. So,
done it.
There was a lot of pressure. And I think, the other thing is there's no mobile phones. There's no communication. I didn't speak to Doe until basically right at the very end. So there's, your letters and that's about it. But, you can't even pick up a phone and speak to her. You're totally, how can you say, radio silence. There's no correspondence at all.
How did you find that, the balance between family life and military life?
I've always said that, I've got a chest full of medals, but the wife should have them. Because at the end of the day, my first son was born while we were on a tour of a 2-year tour of Ireland, and he was born in Downpatrick. And basically then I was flown off the border. We were on the border, and it was just over the Orange Day period, so it was quite busy. I got there on the Friday, got up to Downpatrick Hospital then Friday evening. Luckily enough to see Sean being born. But I always remember I went in, and I've got a pistol, yeah, and it's rubbing. So, doze out of it a little bit. So I put the pistol under a pillow.
As you do.
As you do.
Does she know this?
Yeah,
Safety
she does.
on.
There was no. I'd take the magazine. It was unloaded. And I put the magazine. I put the pistol under a pillow. Sean was born and everything like that. And I was driving back then to Ballykinler. You've got an escort with you, and I'm driving back to Ballykinler and said, Ray, what? Turn around, what? I've left my pistol.
Oh my God.
In the hospital?
Yeah. But I then went and seen her on the Saturday morning. I deployed again. I didn't see Doe then for another 2 months. And then Christian, my other son then, he was born in Tidworth. I was already out in Ireland, and I got flown back, missed his birth on the... it was on a Thursday, missed his birth by a couple of hours, flew back then on the Saturday, and I didn't see Christian till he was 5 months old. Wow. So, there is... A lot of people used to say to Doe, I remember when I moved back and I was still in the forces, and both sons then were in Penglais, and a lot of people used to say, are you a single mother to Doe? Because I was never there.
Yeah. Wow. Mm-hmm. Am I right in saying that both sons joined the military as well?
Sean joined the same regiment as me, and we did Northern Ireland tour together.
Wow. That's
quite something.
Yeah.
Was he under your
I was what job was I then doing? I was I was MTO or RCMO, so I always remember taking Sean back with me, when he joined the Royal Welsh, and we were in Aldershot then, and he made me stop outside the front gate so he could get out the car and walk in with his bags as if he was a new recruit.
Yeah.
So
I kind of get that though.
Yeah, totally get that.
Yeah. So anyway, I then went in. The next morning, I was RCMO then, and who's then given them the welcome to the battalion speech? Me. And Sean said, Dad, don't tell anybody that I'm your son, okay? And it was only about a month later that they're walking across the square, and I was with the RSM then, and a good friend of mine called Shady, and all I heard at the RSM was, "Oh, you lot, get over here. Don't you salute Captain Jones? Especially you," he said, 69, "that's your father." And I went, "Oh."
And it was
Dropped him.
Yeah. But that's it. So, yeah, and then Christian joined the RAF Reg. Yeah, so, yeah.
How did you feel about that when either they told you that they wanted to join or that they did join?
I think they needed their own stories.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that was the big thing with them. They needed their own stories. You know, they both say, "Dad, shut up." It wasn't like that, you know. You know what I mean? You were the Romans, you know what I mean? That's it, and that's fine, you know what I mean? But they needed their stories. They needed their own army mates, and you know, Christian, you know, he's got a good group of mates. Sean, you know, keeps in touch with a lot of his mates. So, yeah, they've got their time, and I was lucky and very fortunate that I was only spent about a year with Sean. I was posted out, so he went off to Cyprus then for 3 years with the regiment.
Probably for the best, isn't it?
Yeah,
break, so you're not watching him constantly,
that's it.
or he feels.
And I think once you're away from the battalion, people forget about you. You know, all of a sudden, you know, he was just, you know, Jones.
Yeah.
And when I said 69, as a Welsh battalion, with a bingo battalion, everybody's got a last two number. If you're a Jones, Evans, Williams, or Davis.
Yeah, of course. Like the rugby team, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true.
You must be really proud though for them to join
very
them
proud.
and follow your footsteps.
You know, again, I think for them, it's just an opportunity for them to say, you know, that they have served and they've done their own thing in the sense that, you know, they went their separate ways.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't a big career for them. Both of them did about 5 years, but, you know, they enjoyed it and they got a lot out of it as well.
Was there any military people in your family before you?
No.
So, and have your sons had children yet?
Sean's girlfriend's expected now, so no, I'm not a grandfather yet. So
okay, cool.
No.
But do you think
Soon,
that?
then.
Do you think there may be that military progression through your family now?
I don't know, and I think, you know, I mean, the other thing is, it's no pressure. Let them do what they want, you know.
Cool.
And that's it. You know, and I was very, I suppose, conscious that they were joining because of me, and I think Sean possibly did. And then Christian, you know, which I was quite relieved actually when Christian said, "I'm not joining the army, Dad. I'm joining the RAF." And I was quite, because again, I had no ties in the army with the RAF, so you know, I had no influence. I didn't know anybody, so that's it.
Yeah.
So I was quite glad of that. Yeah,
That's quite good. I want to ask you about hairiest moment or scary. Was there a point where you thought I might be done here, or?
I think, you know, the sad thing is people turn around and say, and you do get a lot of people saying, "I don't believe in God." You pray to somebody on the battlefield. I don't care what anybody says. You know, I mean, I've had guys, you know, I mean, I remember this young cocky Scouser, you know, and how he turned into one of the best soldiers because he realised this is real. And I always remember him coming to me and saying, I was saying, "Sarge, what? I've got the Padre to come and bless the vehicle and say a few prayers." And you think, right, okay, he needs this. He needs this. I said, yeah, fine. And I said, we all sat in the back of the vehicle and the Padre came in and everything like that. And he was so relieved. But yeah, there's quite a few. But I suppose I'm going to go back to that command thing. Where you're in command, you have to get on with it and do it, and you know, and before you know it, you then come out of it. And I was quite known for having a cigar now and again. You'd have a cigar, and your hands would shake. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know, I've been on the battlefield where I've said to somebody, you know what I mean, and it's true. Get a brew on. You find a nice position where you can have a cup of tea and a cigar, whatever you do. Get your head together and then go into the next phase. Because you can't be a million miles an hour all the time. You've got to think it through, because if you don't think it through, then obviously you're going to make mistakes.
The risk is it's up, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's it. Sometimes it is better to just step back a little bit and have a little condor moment, isn't it? And then think, right, how am I going to do this? Because you're formulating your battle plan all the time. Am I going to go right? Am I going to go left? Am I going to go down here? Which is the best route? Which gives me dead ground? Which gives me high ground? So you're doing that all the time because, again, with going on all these courses and experience, you start thinking I suppose, differently, don't you?
Yeah.
When did you retire from the army, Colin?
2012.
Okay. I asked this question to the last person who was in the military. Do you miss it?
You do, but I think I'd come to the end. I could have stayed on, and I was offered promotion, and then go to another regiment up in Catterick. And my argument was that at this stage I was in Cardiff. My wife Do was in Aberystwyth. I was still married and accompanied, so I was leaving on a Sunday night. I was coming home on a Friday. Sometimes not till about 8 o'clock at night. Enjoying Saturday. We always try to go out for a meal and do something on a Saturday, go back on a Sunday. And that was my, kind of routine. Remembering as well, I could be possibly away for a month or 2 months or whatever. So then they said that I was going to Catterick, and I said, right, that's going to be about 6-7 hours drive. And I said, there's a job in Brecon. I'll take the job in Brecon. I'm on my last 3 years now. I'll take the job in Brecon. No. You've been in. I've done 2 tours in Cardiff at this stage. No. You've got to go up there. That's it. This is the job we've penciled you in for. Yeah. So I said that then to it was a lieutenant colonel up in Glasgow, because you have to go for interviews up in Glasgow, manning and records they call it. Which again, you think of the expense flying up to Glasgow for an hour's meeting to fly back. And then he turned around to me and said, "Well, that's it." I said, "Well, I'll resign then." Well, resign. He thought he'd call my bluff. I was heavily involved then with the Army Rugby Union as well. Then. And, I had phone calls from the Army Rugby Union. No, we'll get it sorted. But then I had a good chat with Doe, and Doe said, "It's time." And I thought, she's done this for 10 years now. So I thought, yeah. And I think it was time for me. And the other thing that you have to remember is all my mates had gone. Because I, as an LE, you don't get many guys going from WO1 or going all the way through the ranks and becoming an LE. So all the guys that I joined with or served with, and a lot of the guys that even worked under me, had gone then.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't like, I was leaving, and we are a family regiment, but it wasn't like I was leaving all the family. The family had gone. Yeah. So it wasn't a hard decision.
Sounds like literally a perfect moment.
Yeah. Good timing to go.
I'm still heavily involved with the regiment now. I'm chairman of the Cardiff branch. I'm down there on Monday for a meeting. And I get to meet up with the guys, my mates that I've known for 40, maybe longer years.
Fantastic.
So,
that's brilliant.
And they're all coming to Aber. We got the charity football match. Royal Welsh Fusiliers playing Aber Legends in June, I think the 22nd. So the Cardiff branch are coming up for the weekend's trip. So look out, Aberystwyth.
Stay out of town that night.
Stay out of town.
for a knees up. I might come and watch that.
Yeah. I think I watched it last year.
Yeah.
I think I was down. Yeah. I was going to ask about your charity work. You've done a huge amount, haven't you? What drives you to do that then? What is it?
I'll tell you how it started. I was driving back from Germany, and it was basically I've been told that I was taking over Len Platoon as platoon sergeant. I got offered to stay in Germany for a year, and I didn't want to. I wanted to get back to my regiment, the Royal Welsh Fusiliers, and they were going to Northern Ireland, and I wanted to go. I don't know why. I wanted to be a multiple commander, go to Ireland. So I said, no, I want to get back to the regiment. And I'd spoken to the company commander, and the company commander said, "Oh, I want you to plan something."
Okay.
That every platoon will have an opportunity to do something for a week. I said, okay. And I remember driving back, and I think, the other thing is then you think, right, I want to do something different. I don't go adventure training or kayaking. I want to do something different. And then we put a challenge in and we were going to Northern Ireland, and it was for children in need then. And we were walking from Wrexham via Aberystwyth, I may add, to Cardiff in 10 days with packs. And I went to the CO, and the CO said, well, that's the last week of the Northern Ireland tour. I said, oh, don't worry about it. And he came back to me and said, no, go for it. I'll get you back.
Brilliant.
So there's another incentive. I had so many guys wanted to come back with me. It was unreal. But you pick the characters, you know what I mean? And and we were live on telly, and we had the corps drums and the band in Cardiff waiting to walk. It was a great occasion, and I remember that we had the characters. You get the characters on the mic. Come on, everybody! Don't be shy. Please give to the bear with only one eye. The Royal Welsh Fusiliers walk in from Wrexham to Cardiff on a big tannoy and that was it. And we raised about 20 grand, and it was fantastic. You get the bug.
Yeah, I bet.
What are you going to do next? And the boys going. The sad thing is, they don't do the work of organising it. They come into you, going, "Where are we going next? What we doing next?" It progressed. That when I was Sergeant Major in Ballykelly, I took the whole company. And we came back and we did a charity 2 weeks in Wales. We walked Wales. We did It's and Knockouts. We did cabaret nights, and the cabaret nights were brilliant. Ladies' nights, charging them, £5-10 to come in. Then we had the Saturday night feelers, the Welsh Monty, and all. Yeah. And I remember, and sadly, one of my best mates. Chris Ellery Socks, who's sadly passed and passed with cancer after he came out the forces. I remember we were in the NAFI in Ballykelly, and it had like a big floor room there where you could dance and put discos on and everything. And he went, right, because he was the guy to get them dancing and everything. And he said, right, I'm going to play music now. So you got the whole company of 90 guys in there now. You know what I mean? I was the MC, so I was the guy on the mic. He said, I'm going to play music now, and I want to see you dance. I want to see who the dancers are. And it was just like dancing around handbags when they were shuffling around and all that. So he turns the music off. He said, right, I need 20 good dancers, or you're walking from Wrexham all the way around the coast to Cardiff. Well, what's spinning coming out then, you know what I mean? So that's how it was. But that was, for me as company sergeant major, to do that with my company was, you can't ask for better. You couldn't bottle that. It was fantastic. Yeah.
You went up Snowdon blindfolded
as well, didn't you? Yeah.
That can't have been easy.
No, it wasn't. These mad things just creep in, don't they?
Yeah.
Tell me about what?
Yeah, I did a
pig trail.
I did the pig trail. Yeah, I did. I'll tell you what it was for Blind Veterans UK.
Righto.
And you try and look at something outside of the box, don't you? And we did Pen y Fan first, and that was quite fine. I thought, yeah, it's not a problem. Snowdon was quite difficult because we had the charity football match then that night, so getting back down for that as well and organising that. And then I did a cycle event from Dover the next year then, where I cycled to every army camp in the UK that I've been posted to. Whoa. And finished off in Llandudno, which is the home of Blind Veterans UK Wales. And then I did 47 miles blindfold walk from Llandudno to Wrexham. And I've not done a charity event since.
Oh my God. I bet your wife's at home worried about what you're going to do next.
She was, the last 10 miles, she was there with me, and she said never again. But yeah, you do. And you're known for it, and that's it. But charity's been good to me as well. Yeah. So, I'm not gonna knock it. And I think I quite like the organisation and challenge, and it's the contacts that you build up over the years that you can go to. Ryan Jones did the run with me, and he was brilliant. Ryan's a really nice man, and he's always turning up. He did some of the cycle with me. Just generally nice guy, and a heart of gold, and very supportive of the military charities.
Good.
And you're doing something amazing, raising money for a worthy cause, which is obviously
you do
incredible.
I think going back to Ballykelly when I was sergeant major, and we raised about 25-30 grand, whatever. But I remember we did a cabaret night in Llandudno, and this mother was there, and I remember the OC then and myself, and we were just chatting, and her daughter was very poorly, possibly terminally ill, and she said, I just want to raise some money for swimming with dolphins. And we spoke, and we had to make phone calls then, because again, it's all got to be audited and everything like this, that's a great thing with the army. It's audited about 3 or 4 times. So we spoke, and he made a phone call then, and I think it was agreed then, the commanding officer, and we went round with a cheque for £1,000, big cheque, knocked the door. She wasn't expecting it. We were all there with the berry and hackles on, and this and that. And she said, what's that? And I remember her saying, well, that's a big check. And they said, there's the little check.
There's the little one. Yeah.
But I think when you can do something like that, that's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Of course it is, to change someone's
Yeah.
life. Can you tell us a little bit about your MBE?
Service to the regiment and obviously to charity. And it basically was for some work I did in Northern Ireland, and then obviously the charity events then combined to that. Very honoured, I think I was, what was I, Colins then, when I picked it up. But yeah, great honour. King Charles then presented me in Cardiff Castle, and I was again then, the opportunity of the wife being there, two of my sons being there. Yeah, it was a very proud moment.
Nice. It was.
And when did you find out that you were going to be getting that?
Yeah, and how does that happen?
I'll tell you a story. I was playing rugby for Shotton. I was what's known as a PSI at the time. It was Colins PSI. So I'm a permanent staff instructor with the TA battalions, reserve battalions, up in Queensferry. A great bunch of guys. And I think what people don't realise with the reservists as well, they're working during the week. They're asked then to come in at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. They're asked to put their military kit on. They're given their weapons. They put on a coach and off they go for the weekend. And sometimes really absolutely hammered. And they're back on a Sunday, soaking wet. Soaked to the skin, and then they're starting back work on a Monday. So I've got high regards for the reserve units. They definitely bolster our ranks, which is fantastic. But I was up there and I had a fantastic 2 years. But I've been out in Shotton Rugby. I was playing rugby for Shotton, and I came home after a few beers, and the phone rang. No mobile phones then, so the phone rang, and the
old landline.
Yeah.
Rang, and I answered the phone, and it said, Colour, it's the commanding officer. I went, stop messing a frigging about, and slammed the phone down on him. Yeah. So the phone rang again, and Doe went, who was it? I said, somebody playing up and pretended to be the commanding officer. And then, so Doe answered, and she went, oh, it is the commanding officer. So it's Christmas, and he said, you're speaking to me now, are you, Colour? And I went, yes, sir. He said, anyway, I've got good news. You've just been awarded the MBE. So that's how it's announced. And and that's it. And you don't reflect then. You wake up in the morning, you think, did it really happen?
Sore head as well.
About 10 pints of Guinness, did it really happen? So, it was a great honour. Great honour.
What are you up to now, Colin? Just come back to present.
No, present.
Are you relaxing?
Well, yeah, but I've just taken over, and I don't know why. I know this guy called Donald Kane.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I remember this time last year, Donald said to me, Colin, will you come and give us a hand with Abertown Football Club? And I think my reply was, I'd rather stick pins in my eyes, Donald. and I had a couple more beers, and then I said, well, I'll give you a hand. So I'm more or less quite engrossed with it now. So we just started off a foundation. Mm-hmm. So we've got a charity status for the football club. Mm-hmm. We're doing fit fans, and there's a lot going on in the football club, and rightly so. Aberystwyth Town Football Club's the biggest sports team in the area, and and I think we sometimes need to get behind it a little bit more. But there's a lot going to be going on with Abertown Football Club. We've got a charity event arranged now in May with them, which I'm quite looking forward. So I've got that. I've still got a small little business, which my wife runs mainly, but I give it a hand with that. And I'm chairman of the Cardiff branch of the Royal Welsh Fusiliers, so I'm quite busy with that. So I'd say semi-retired, but working harder possibly than I have for a while. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Semi-retired is pretty accurate,
isn't it? Same as my dad. My dad retired from, what's he doing? He's working for Kraft, that local recycling thing. Yeah. He helped start it, and then he was just like, I'm so bored.
Yeah.
So he went to work at Nantaria, and then...
I think, the biggest thing is, and I think, as I said, I'm institutionalised. So, I'll get up in the morning at a certain time. Breakfast is at the same time. My wife often says, what time do you want food? Oh, what's the point of asking? 6 o'clock, news is on, can't get any better. Lunch is 12:30 till 1, and that's it, And, I know what I have for breakfast. Evening meals always are nice. And then we'll have, something light for lunch, and that's it. At 8 o'clock at night, I normally have a latte, and that's me. That's, I'm setting my way and quite happy.
Cool.
But But I think, you need some time then or something to do to fill the gaps.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I'm not a TV kind of guy. I watch it at night and I do enjoy, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, sit in front of the telly, relax, and everything's done. But you've got to earn that.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, actually. You've got to earn it. You feel like you deserve it then, don't you?
Yeah.
Nice.
You're sort of out now, aren't you? Or pretty much out of the military. I understand you still do bits and bobs. Do you ever sort of reflect or lie in bed at night and someone will come back to you, or your mind draws back to something in particular?
I think it's crazy now, isn't it, that we've got this communication device called, mobile phone with Facebook, and it's what somebody else will put down, and that will bring it back.
Of course.
Yes.
Right. You know what I mean? And that's it. And that's
throwback picture or something like that.
And that's it. And then you automatically go back to the place you were, and you realise and think what you were doing. You know what I mean? I've just had one now. There's one of my mates. He was on a Welsh programme last night. There's this new prison thing in Welsh on television, and he was one of the extras.
Okay.
Yeah, and he just looked quite evil, actually. And he's put it on. And I've gone back now to, Ballykinler, when he was in the platoon. And I said, I was his corporal in Ballykinler. It's funny how you go back to them, you know what I mean? And it is, a song will come on, you think, God, I was in the Falklands when this came out. That's
it's like nostalgia. Well, I'm sure
Powerful.
some's positive, some's negative potentially, but it's like nostalgia, isn't it? You hear something,
Yeah.
that takes you back. A smell, even. I find smells
crazy.
crazy.
I mean, you talk about smells, but you can talk about the battlefield, but then for me, it was the overpowering smell of the battlefield. That was something that that possibly I won't forget, because it was, you can imagine all the armaments going off and that strong smoke that used to come in, just gush in, and the smell then of graphite and everything like that, that's some of the things again, on an explosion, the smell of that and different things. So yeah, there's sense sometimes is a big thing, isn't it?
It is. It is. Take you back.
I think I'm going to wrap it up and just ask you a few quick fire questions if that's okay with you, Colin.
Yeah.
Favorite film.
Favorite TV series is Band of Brothers. Cool. Yeah. I think that, and I'll tell you why. They went into so much detail, all the weapon handling, the movement of positions and everything. So as a professional soldier, you're looking at that. Saving Private Ryan was good, but they really, they captured everything. And I thought, well done. So I'll most likely watch it again now within 6 months.
Pacific as well. Do you like that?
No, I don't think it was up to the same standard. I think
Band of Brothers was the one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They're making another one, not another Band of Brothers. The same team are producing a new one this year.
Yeah, is it about the Lancaster Bombers? No,
there's a lot of flying.
I think I've seen something actually. Yes, Lancaster Bombers. It is. I think it is the Lancaster Bombers.
I'd heard that. That
looks very good.
Yeah.
That'd been right.
No, they captured it. Fantastic, and a great story. I was very lucky this year that I did. I've done a lot of battlefield tours. I took a battlefield tour to Belgium this year, and I took the Cardiff branch, and that was really, really good tour. But also I went on the Rugby World Cup, and I went then and did Caen. I did the D-Day landing monument, and to go to Pegasus Bridge is really fantastic. So, I've got a lot of how can you say admiration for the World War One. Was sadly to say it was carnage, wasn't it? But then World War Two, you look at it, and I think for me as a soldier, there was a lot of the opportunity of being a soldier in World War Two. So I've got a lot of respect for them. Yeah.
Have you seen the Netflix series on World War Two? It's on there now.
Yeah, I've started watching it. Yeah,
unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's absolutely incredible.
I've seen the first one now. Yeah,
it's because it's in colour now.
Yeah,
you can they're real people.
Yeah,
whereas I couldn't feel that when it was in black and white.
Yeah,
it's amazing but horrifying at the same time.
It's the sad thing of waiting for the wife to go to bed before I can put it on.
Okay.
Favourite destination, holiday maybe even.
I enjoyed South Africa. Went out to South Africa on 2 rugby tours. And the first rugby tour, we went to a place called Matuba, then we went into Durban, and then we went into Cape Town. So you had really the wild jungles of Matuba, the nice beach of Cape Town, and then a beach of Durban, and then a very European Cape Town, very European. So I enjoyed that too. I was with a good bunch of boys and everything like that. So yeah, I'd say that for me, I've been all over. South Georgia's amazing. The wildlife and everything. And when I reflect on it now, it was brilliant at the time. It was very cold and uncomfortable, but you just get on with it.
Yeah,
You do.
Nice. Music. Favorite music?
Queen.
Yeah.
Classic choice.
Yeah. Any particular song, or is it just?
No, I like Bohemian Rhapsody. I just think Queen, just for me, captured most of my career. There was always a good Queen song. I remember when we had a regimental sergeant major who was finishing off, and he was an absolutely massive Queen fan. So 4 of us then dressed up as the old "We Want to Break Free," and the things you do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody was in stitches. But the great thing was, because you go on a regimental dinner, and you can't leave the table, not to even go to the toilet, until the regimental sergeant major says you can. So, I always remember when going to the mess as regimental sergeant major, I would have my glass of wine with my own bottle, which would be Ribena. So I'd be drinking Ribena, and they go, "No, he's drinking tonight.
He's on it."
Yeah. Knowing, because you have a G&T as you come in, you don't have a pint too heavy. They will be on pint, especially the guys that's first or second time they've been to a regimental dinner, and then you're sat there with your, glass of blackcurrant, watching them. Oh, he's had 3 or 4 of them now, like that, and they're just, but they can't go to the toilet.
No.
And then what happens is then one of them will sneak off, and they're all bubblers. They're all bubblers, which is brilliant. So you get then the mess waiter to take his chair away. So he's basically just sat there like that,
Do the squat.
and you can see he's in agony.
yeah.
And then when you say, "Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you can now go for a 15-minute toilet break," he just collapses. You know what I mean? So there's great moments like that. Yeah.
I love those little insights.
Yeah, I think that might be.
Cool.
Number one, thanks for your service.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And also, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, absolutely.
Really did.
Yeah.
My mind's blown.
Full respect to you, Colin. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Pleasure.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.